Audio's on.
Kim?
Okay. All right, so we are back with agenda item 5A, discussion and possible action regarding credit card use fee. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you. Ms. Lawrence is going to take this item.
Yes, in March 2020, due to COVID, the board elected to waive credit card convenience fees as well as penalties for late payments. In September, the board reviewed the waivers in place and elected to resume penalties and late fees effective January 1st. As the impacts of COVID continued, the board decided to continue waiving the credit card convenience fees for online payments only to encourage customers to make payments online rather than in person. And we're to bring this matter back to the board. As the mandates of COVID have mostly been lifted, staff is bringing this matter back to the board for consideration. While staff would like to recommend continuing with the waiver of online payments, the expense to the district is such that it does not seem to be the right thing to do. As it stands, the average cost of processing a credit card payment is now $3.18, and the district is only recovering $2 per transaction. Customers have several options to pay without incurring a fee, such as check, cash, auto pay, and bank checks through their own banking institution's bill pay program. Staff is recommending that the board authorize staff to resume charging the credit card convenience fee for all credit card purchases and increasing the cost to $3 per transaction effective July 1st.
All right, thank you very much. Start down with Charlie. Did you have any questions?
No, I do not.
All right, Deborah?
No.
Mark?
Yes, will a notice go out?
Yes. We'll send out a notice starting with the next bill cycle.
Okay,
And
that's,
we'll put it online as well.
thank you.
When is this going to be effective?
July 1st.
July 1st, okay.
And we're increasing by $1.
Yes. You can see on the attached spreadsheets that just the cost of the software component and the merchant fees only, that doesn't include any processing fees that staff incurs. The base cost to us far exceed what we're charging right now.
I also see it dropping steadily, so,
Increasing slowly.
well,
You mean the amount of
the
people
credit
that
card, the
charges?
number of people who are using credit cards is, am I reading this correct? It went from 2,700 to 1,000
Where are you at?
credit card payments?
That was at the counter.
That's the counter payments.
Oh,
The online payments continue to rise. They went from 21,788 in 2018-19 and are now at 24,422. For this year to date, rather.
Mhm.
And actually, at the end of last year, it was 33,294.
so, but that's online, that's credit card online? Is
That's
that-
credit card.
Okay, because it didn't say that, it just says online. I thought that maybe it was just, so that's
I should have
credit.
made that clear, yes. The online payments are credit card only at this point.
Oh, okay. I didn't understand. I thought those were just like I do with bills. They're just taken out of my account.
Now, that's auto pay. That's a
Auto
different
pay.
source, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I misinterpreted that.
All right, Kathy, any questions?
No.
All right, I don't have any questions. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, so I have, all in favor of the motion to authorize staff to charge the credit card fee, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All
I would
right,
like to abstain.
all right. So the motion passes. All right, moving on to 5B, presentation regarding smart meter program acceleration. Mr. Burt.
Thank you. Sean is going to be taking this item, and this is an item that we've talked about over the past few meetings about speeding our program up for the meter replacement program. And we wanted to present some of the information for the board to be able to make a decision based on information provided. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Burtz. Staff brought the meter presentation several months ago and has back with further information, and this will especially segue us into item C for tonight on line 10. So just a quick overview. The integration and customer portal launched in the year 2021. We had our original meter replacement schedule that was approved by the board. It was phased across 5 years, ending in 24-25. The actual meter replacement stats we've seen, phase 1, cycles 4 and 6 in the fiscal year 2021, 720 meters. We actually replaced 737. We're currently in phase 2, which is cycle 2, 974 meters. We've actually replaced about 1,640. Now that's due to failures such as bottom seals and registers, and we're going to get to that in a moment. So our total meters replaced to dates, and that number's actually increased just in the last several weeks since this was compiled. We're about 2,600 and change at the moment. The projected replacements total by the end of the fiscal year, we're going to be about 3,328, and the original target for the end of this fiscal would have been 2,300. What are some of the benefits we see from our new AMI meter system? We're already seeing some benefits, including reduction in meter leaks, reduction in field staff time reading, data logging, and low no flows, and that's due to the AMI infrastructure we have in place. A reduction in office staff time and processing meter changeouts, a reduction of water loss, real-time leak detection due to the customer portal, and the customer portal and notifications that give that accessibility to our customers. No manufacturing defects or potential problems have surfaced within that 2,562 meters we've installed. So staff feels that's been a pretty reliable beta test of the product we're installing. There is the potential increase in material and labor costs as inflations continue to rise. The district is contractually bound with the price of the meters, but there is concern that as materials rise and the greater need for meters becomes as we grow, we are seeing that water loss reduction that's due from water loss from meter leaks such as bottom seals, reduced billed water loss. That is the accuracy through the meter, because these new meters are a magnetic meter, not like a positive displacement, so they got a little bit more accurate. And this also helps staff with the implementation of the 55 gallons per person per day. So that's a SB 606 and 1668. We're seeing staff times savings, greatly reduced staff time meter reading, reduced staff time replacing those meters, because again, we are contracted with Concord to do the bulk of those changeouts and less failures. And we're seeing a reduction on data logs, meter accuracy issues, and other investigations. And that's due to the office staff having the ability to run those remote here from the office. And better customer service. So we have that customer portal access to all the customers that have received that new meter, as well as customer leak notifications that are accessible by the customer. And the last page we brought here was our old meter system and the related cost for that. So staff time, how many staff members are required per month for reads and meter maintenance, including replacements? So that is 4. How many hours? Below is the percentage of the hours per month that we spend on meter related work, broken down by subcategory. So we're averaging about 108, 109 hours a month, or 1,306 hours per year that could potentially be eliminated with implementing that full-scale AMI system. And how does that break out into dollars for the district? What's that cost? The approximate total cost of that's $107,034. And we see that broken out by the categories such as reading, about $10,000, data verification, just a little under $40,000, and replacements. And replacements is really we want to highlight what is replacements. Again, that's registers failing, that's bottom seals failing. Those are meters that have to come out of the ground due to those failures. And what do those numbers look like broken down by year? Off to the right, we see by year. In 2019, we had about 495 of those failures. In 2020, we saw 504, and in 21, we saw 522. So we actually see that number trending up. That is why staff's proposing to complete the change out in fiscal 22-23 and has asked for that in the budget. We'll get to that item C, line 10. We're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Charlie, let's go ahead and start with you.
So you indicated that you've already got a contract in place. What is the total number of meters that are covered by that contract?
From the contract for the meter purchasing or the meter installation?
Meter purchasing.
Meter purchasing is the full-scale district implementation. At the time, it was 7,150. So as we've continued to grow since that time the contract was executed, any growth was not captured by that.
All right, well, we're pushing that now.
We exceed that.
We
by a
exceed
little.
that now,
Yes,
just
sir.
a bit, yeah.
Just a hair under 7,200.
Yeah, okay. So that was the reason for your comment about
Well, so we're ahead of schedule quite a bit.
Yes, sir.
And
And that's,
part of that is because of the failures and things like that.
that is correct.
We've got, what, 2.5 years left for,
Yes.
under the current plan?
If we were to stay on the current plan, that's correct. About 2.5 years.
And at the rate that we're
At the rate
changing them out, it might be less than 2 years.
that is correct. If we were to stay on the trajectory now, that last year would be potentially eliminated by the failures we're
Yeah.
seeing anyways.
I would assume. Okay.
And how many meters do we actually have in-house now?
Today, sitting on the shelf?
Yeah.
So they're, due to some supply chain issues, we have about 105 sitting on our shelf. Staff would place the order ahead of time and get out in front of the supply chain in anticipation of the budget being approved. And we would have those waiting in anticipation of doing the full scale changeout.
So we would order enough for everybody, every meter.
That is correct. Every meter in the district would be
It
ordered
needs to
ahead of
be
time.
switched.
Correct. So we keep that 100. We like to have 150 at all times. That is for our repair and maintenance and our new installs. We have a standing order right now. We're due another 150. Unfortunately, they're on back order. We're dealing with the supply chain issue, much like many other organizations, and it seems to be about across the board. We preemptively, in this year's budget, ordered any of the parts that we use, especially electronics, such as the servers for our SCADA system or the PLCs for our SCADA. We have those on the shelf. Our meters do utilize chips as well. And we are getting towards the end of our fiscal so that we do see our inventory start to reflect that. But we would order in mass and receive that so the changeout could be completed if the board were to approve our request.
And we can order more if we wanted to at the same contract price that we were tied in with. Is that correct?
We have not received notice of increase yet. We are anticipating an increase as we're seeing an increase in every other material. Luckily, the meter we selected is made of high-density polyethylene. It's called HDPE plastic. It is in the plastic family and due to those resin costs, but Census has not raised the price yet. They are holding out, luckily for now.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I don't have any questions at this time, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
Sean, how many of the remaining meters to be replaced do you believe what percentage do you think are leaking in that we haven't identified yet?
So staff conducted a meter analysis. Jen, if you could help me out with this, I don't recall those numbers right off the top of my head, but we do have those numbers available. I believe when we tested them, we were seeing about a 10% bottom seal failure.
We were seeing higher than that. It was probably
Okay.
closer to 30% of the 2% that we tested.
So staff tested 2%. It's called a grab sample of the district meters because I wanted to be able to give the board fact and not speculation. And in that 2%, we tested around 30% of those meters actually had a bottom seal leak at some stage. That's due to that rubber hardening, anywhere from weeping to where it just makes things moist to a physical leak that we could detect.
How do you come to find out about those?
Those are typically called in now by the customer and/or staff in being notified by customers or in our meter maintenance program. So if we're out there for valve exercising or turn-ons, turn-offs, customer shut-offs, but the vast majority of them would be called in by the customer.
So there's a huge potential for existing leaks out there that we haven't been able to address yet.
That is correct. There is a massive potential for leaks that have not been addressed by that.
And that's on our side, not on the customer side.
That is correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
I
Thank
have
you.
one more question. Have you talked to the meter company about how long it would take to get all of the meters? There's a certain number you've ordered already,
That is
and
correct.
you were staging them in, and how long would it take?
So in anticipation of this question, I absolutely reached out, so I had a correct answer for this. If we were to place that order today, I cannot be guaranteed a delivery or shipment time, early 2023.
Well, we wouldn't be able to order it today. It would be in the next budget.
There
So it
could-
would be after July 1st is when you would order it. Is that correct?
We
Correct.
could order them today
You could order them today.
because we
in
don't pay
advance.
for them until we receive them, so.
And on
So,
that,
so what was the answer?
so the answer to that is they wouldn't give me a date, early 2023. They could be delivered sooner, or they could be delivered a little later. And to answer Lori, to follow up on that, that is correct. If we were to place the order ahead of time, it is cancelable as well. And the district does not pay for asset and inventory until it's received.
Okay, so then it's another year.
Yeah.
So and in the end, the savings is gonna be maybe a year, probably. So it
Potentially.
depends- Yeah, so it depends on where we're getting the funds. Thank you.
Thank
If
you.
we only have 100 left, and it's gonna take almost a year to get them. That's not good.
Here to get them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not good.
Wow.
I have one further question. So, Mr. Wright, so are you just asking for guidance from the board right now, or are you just presenting information?
Director Johnson, this was just a presentation. We
Okay.
will be going over this item in 5C.
Budget.
Okay.
And Director Hoffman, to follow up on that, the 150 or so on the shelf, we have a standing order, so we can get smaller quantities to keep up with our repair and maintenance and new installation commitments
Right.
a little easier than we can get in mass 3 or 4 or 5,000 meters.
Okay, thank you.
But you indicated those are already still on back order.
That is correct.
So it is what it is.
Staff can be rather persuasive
No, I
when we
understand.
need materials.
And I'm thankful for that.
Okay.
All right. So we will move on to C, review of 2022, 2023 10-year CIP and maintenance plans. Mr. Bartz.
Thank you, Madam President. We're going to go through here. A lot of this has been reviewed previously through the different committees. So we can spend some time, and I'll have each of the departments chime in for the ones that affect them, or if there's any questions. Starting off with our chromium mitigation. We have, or let me ask you this. Do we want to review individual lines, or is everybody comfortable with where we're at with these at this point? Because I don't want to waste the time if you're comfortable with the numbers.
Consensus?
I'm good.
My
unless-
suggestion would be to go to a line number and ask if there's any
any
questions.
questions,
If not,
yeah.
go to the next one
Yeah.
and we could. So-
Okay, that'd be perfect.
Okay.
Great.
So just
How
suggest-
how about if we go by item number, and then we can break it down to individual lines inside of that? So our chromium mitigation, which is item number 1, $2.8 million. I'm going to round each one of these off. Are there any questions on number 1? And I'm already going to anticipate your question, the $450,000 for well 14?
Yes,
Okay, the $450,000, that's a great question, and I knew that was going to come
I
up.
didn't even ask it.
I can see it,
You're clairvoyant,
yes.
because we've
So-
asked it before.
So the well
times.
14,
Several times.
we put money in the budget for that based on the anticipated chromium 6 ruling. Sean, if you want to give a quick update real quick on the Chromium 6, I think this would be a great time for that.
Thank you, Mr. Burtz. So staff has received guidance on hexavalent chromium. The MCL is going to be handed down in 2024. That number is going to be 10. 10 part.
2024?
That is correct. So we're going to go just real quick on why that's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
So when the MCL takes effect in the year 2024, a 2 to 4 year compliance window will ensue on the district's size. In the state, we are a large district, so more than likely, that'll be a 4-year compliance window, which lands us having to be within compliance in the year 2028. So we have time.
That's very, very
A lot
good,
of
Sean.
time.
Thank you.
Well, then why are we spending $450,000 to profile 14?
And if I may on that,
Italicized.
Well, I'm saying,
Director Johnson, to answer that question, because well 14 addresses the district's demands on the max day demand for our district. Our timeline is laid out in our 10-year CIP, especially in chromium. We have well 15 that's going to be started drilling this May. As we profile, we will take away some of our production capacity. We don't want to reduce the district's production capacity until more assets are brought online. So with the state's guidance on the new hexavalent MCL, that'll play perfectly into staff in the district's timeline of events to remain in compliance while addressing our max day demand with well 14 and bringing further production assets online, meanwhile staying in compliance on water quality.
I apologize because I'm just going to not let this go for a second, because if we don't have to be in compliance until 2028, then if we profile 14, probability is that it's going to reduce the production.
Yes.
And that's been the standard experience so far. So we have, 6 years. Why are we going to spend $450,000 to profile a well that we don't really have to worry about for another 6 years? I don't understand why it's in 2020, 22, 23. Why don't we put it out in 24, 25?
If the compliance window were to be shortened, because the official guidance isn't out, the MCL hasn't been adopted yet, but that's the state guidance to district we received last week. If our compliance window ends in 2026, haste makes waste. We would rather be readily and knowing what our production capacities are going to be reduced to further bring assets. If we have to reduce the production capacity of well 14 by half, and the district may have to seek an
Well, that would
additional
be dramatic
production
if it was reduced by half, but.
until it's profiled
I
and discrete
understand, I
sampled. I
understand.
can't give, I'm not going to speculate.
No,
I'm
no,
not
I
comfortable.
understand. Well,
Um,
you kind of just did by saying it was going to be half. I'm not
potentially
going
could.
to belabor it, but I just think,
Because we don't want to run up, if we exhaust too much time, there's the potential that as we profile, we wouldn't have the necessary resources to bring online to make up for that lost production capacity. That's why staff's trying to address this early on in the budget.
Yeah, if you look at the amount of time, take a look at well 15, the amount of time that it takes from finding property, going through the CEQA, getting Edison to the property and everything else, you're probably, along with the supply chain issues, you're probably 2 years to get a well in the ground. If you told us to start today, it would take two full years to get a well into the ground and up and running. So what we're doing, we've put this in here. We will bring it back to the board when we feel it's time to do this testing. But we don't want to wait until the last minute to do this. Because as Sean said, it can, if you should lose 50% of the production or 30% of the production, that is a big hit when you look at the overall numbers with that being our largest producing well. And we just want to plan well in advance of the mandate being imposed on us.
so this is, the bottom
Well,
line
after-
is that
After he does.
you can't do this until you come back with the board for approval anyway, so.
That's correct.
This is just a plan, and it has to come back for the expenditure according to the purchasing
Yeah,
policy.
and frankly, at the time when we put this $450,000 number into the 10-year capital plan, we didn't have guidance from the state other than anticipating what it could be. We didn't know if it was going to be greater, if it was going to be less. We're not even confident of what the exact timeline is going to look like until they give us the mandate. So it could be, if we determine it could be pushed off a year, that might be an option too.
Well,
But
you
at
have
this point-
guidance that you received last week that says 2024, so that's,
But that is not the final,
well, of
that's not
course
the
not,
final
but they're
verdict
not
on
likely
it.
to come back and slam it in next year. They just don't do that.
They did last time.
And they got slapped for it too.
They did, but we still had to, we were still under tight compliance deadline.
Okay, next.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, we've brought this up. I know I've brought it up a couple of times. I would suggest moving it out a year. It's a placeholder. Now, there is some guidance, at least for 1 year, because then our new well, the new well would be, you'd have a production number for that. You'd know where you're at, and it could be, the total production then could be assessed when the new well is, when the new well has been tested and or online. And then this could be folded in because you'd have more up-to-date numbers rather than now. So that's my opinion. I think it should be moved a year.
But it is just a placeholder, is that correct?
That is correct. And staff is not opposed to pushing it out 1 year. We'll move it out to 23, 24 if that's the will of the board.
That would be my recommendation as well.
But just asking that, so you're saying that you can use it as a placeholder currently. We probably won't be using that for a while. So from what Charlie and Mark are saying though, what does it hurt by it being there? We can push it out, that's fine, but what does it hurt by being there? That's what I just want to know.
Well, I'm trying to get the budget the way it should be, and I looked at this number a couple of times, and I think it should be pushed out.
But it's not
That's-
hurting, but you can,
It doesn't hurt, but it's in there, and I don't see why we would have it in there, that's all. I mean, that's,
and Sean, you're fine with a year, Dawn, George, you guys are ones that are,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's
If
not a
If it's
problem.
the desire of the board, absolutely.
it's still workable.
Still workable.
Okay, because you guys are ones that are on this day in and day
We
out.
take that as a consensus of the board to go ahead
There's only
and,
two.
because we're
Don't-
adjusting
Well,
this.
Two's
there's
not a
only
consensus.
two that have voiced an opinion at this
Right.
point.
Deborah, are you okay with
I
that?
agree with that, I agree with that.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Kathy?
Now we have.
I am now that I verified with everybody that deals with this on a daily.
Right.
Okay.
I want to make sure.
Thank you all.
Okay, are there any other questions on item number 1? Item number 2 is our Civic Center funding source. And we have $5 million put in there for this year, and that would be a loan for the construction on the building. Hearing nothing. Master plan for the reservoirs, number 3, we have nothing for the year, so that's a good number. Number 4, are there any questions on that?
That's just a pipeline
Just a pipeline.
change, okay.
Number 5, there's nothing on that. All the way down, dropping down to number 10, meters. $1.7 million. And that is referencing the discussion that we had just a few minutes ago on the meter change-out program. Do we have any input from the board on that?
Sean, just to refresh my memory, we talked about this last time. If we put the 1.7 million there, it actually saved us money in the long run, correct? Because we had 700,000 budgeted for 4 years?
Correct?
Thank you. Any other questions? Charlie?
Well, based upon your presentation, Mr. Wright, this $1.7 million, it would be to purchase the meters, correct?
Director Johnson, that $1.7 million is to purchase the meters and have them installed.
And install, right. But we've already had a conversation earlier during your presentation that those meters are not likely to show up until spring of '23,
Correct.
which is in the middle of our next fiscal year. So the probability of spending that $1.7 million in fiscal '22, '23 is unlikely, it seems to me.
I believe it's achievable at this time.
Well, I would be more comfortable if we took that 1.7 million and spread it over the next 2 fiscal years. Because I just, based upon what you said in your presentation, it's unlikely we're gonna get the meters, number one, and then once we have them, then we have to put them in the ground, so that it takes time. And so I would rather see that split into 2 fiscal years, 22, 23, 23, 24.
Let me ask you this, Sean. What is your confidence level with the delivery of the meters and how long it would take to install the meters for the rest of the change out during that time? Could it be done by July?
98% today. We'd have it done.
By July of 2023?
Yep,
If you get the meters in.
yep. No, that's even with the ship dates that they've given me.
Of being
So you're gonna get
2023?
Because there's the
3,000
potential they even do ship in late '22. There's no guarantees they ship early '23. It could come sooner.
Right.
And I'm confident in everything we've seen from that company and our own abilities. I'm 98% confident we can have it done by next July 1st.
So we have approximately how many meters left to put in the ground, like 3,500?
Approximately.
Yeah, around
half.
half, yeah. 35, 36, somewhere in there. Okay, so you're pressing 98% confidence that you can install, worst case scenario, we get them in the spring of '23. You're saying that you can put those 3,500 meters in the ground in 5-6 months?
Correct.
Wow. Okay, well, I don't want to micromanage you. You do a great job, so I don't want to micromanage it. I'm just considering the policy. The budget process is a policy. That's why I'm digging in so much. It's not questioning your ability to do your job at all.
Yes, sir.
But it's just a big number, and it does have a major impact on our fiscal position, that's all. That's my only concern.
Okay,
all.
Deborah, any questions?
No.
Mark?
Yeah, we're, one of my, I understand, I mean, it's probably gonna save a year or so, maybe $100,000 in the end. Water loss will be a little less. Where's the money coming from?
For that, we have the option of either a loan for the money or reserves for the money.
So that hasn't been decided yet, so if we.
The funding has not been
If
decided
the
yet.
board moves ahead with this, then the board has to decide where the money's gonna come from. And if it was on some kind of schedule that we already had, where would that money be coming from? From reserves?
Yes.
Are you talking about the original 700,000 that we had earmarked for it? Okay.
Yes, but it was a delayed reserve draw.
Okay.
And that would be coming from reserve.
If we were on the schedule that we're on now, since we're accelerating it, it might behoove us to look at getting a low interest rate loan on it and spreading the costs out a little bit more.
Okay, well, I know you two are on the finance committee and Lori helps guide that, so what's your opinion on all this?
I think that it is in the best interest of the district to move forward as quickly as possible in getting all the meters changed out. There's so many benefits to it, and it'll ultimately save the district a lot of money in a lot of different ways. And it'll free up staff to be able to do some of the other projects that they've had to, push, kick down the road a little bit on some of these things. And I feel like the sooner we can get our entire customer base on this program, the better off we'll be,
Okay, thank you.
especially in light of what's happening with conservation. And what some of the requirements that we know are coming for sure, and what, the governor just handed out some suggestions for doing something to make, have people conserve in our different areas, and this is a great means for them to be able to monitor their own usage and to be able to set parameters that they get, alarmed about if they're exceeding those parameters, and it's just a great tool for our customers.
Jen, do you or Sean want to comment on the governor's suggestions?
Yeah, he actually released some information, it was yesterday, right? Yeah, that basically probably by June 1st, there's gonna be a mandated 20% reduction, which we're anticipating, but that came as part of his executive order yesterday.
Well, this program's not going to have any effect on that. It's still a year, at least a year out. We're probably saving a year. So fiscally borrowing the money or taking out of reserves, you think is worthwhile to save a year's worth of.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, because we don't know what's going to come down the road later on as well, by the time maybe we do get these meters. We don't know. So I'm good with it.
We need to ask if we have a consensus or direction from the board on this item number 10.
Okay, so I'll start with myself. I say we leave the 1.7 where it's at. Kathy?
Same.
Mark?
Would it would help me if we have some kind of I mean, I know there's a couple more steps going forward, but some type of resolution as to, where the money's going to be taken from or how we're going to get it. I would like to have that, say, at the next time we review this.
You would come
So
back
at this
with that.
point,
Yeah, actually, I would recommend that the board assume that we're going to do what we were going to do, which was taking it out of reserves. And then if we can get decent interest rates, we'll bring it back to the finance committee for consideration and move forward in that direction.
okay, so as of now, you would recommend taking it out of reserves?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then if we feel
I
like
guess
it's
we can
gonna be
leave it,
better
I
benefit,
would
we'll
say
bring it
at
back.
this point, leave it in.
Okay.
Okay, Deborah?
Leave it where it's at.
And Charlie?
So to be clear, Ms. Lawrence, this is coming out of our equipment replacement reserve,
Right,
which is why it's there.
right, that's
Uh,
exactly right.
And I know I just want to express this because this is not the same thing as borrowing from reserves that we've done in the past.
No,
This is using the reserve as it was designed to be used.
that's correct.
Okay, so as much as my colleagues don't agree with me, that's fine. I will agree with the balance of the board and leave it where it is, with my reservations stated as they were.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, we're going to move on to page 65, item number 13. And we have field trucks. I believe there are 2 trucks that are budgeted for the field for $100,000. Are there any questions on line number 13?
Oh, 13. 2 trucks.
Okay, moving on, line number 14. And if I go too fast and cut somebody off, please jump in. Line 14, we have $13,000 budgeted, so we have $113,000 for that section. 10-year repair and maintenance plan. Number 15, which is our contract for the tank maintenance. Shouldn't be a whole lot of question on that. Number 18, line number 18 in the,
Explain again, Mr. Bartz, the asterisks in 16 and 17.
The asterisk says cost included in item number 16.
Oh, okay, it's in 16.
See it?
Charlie, those costs were broken out in separate items, and as we developed the new tank maintenance contract, they were rolled in to simplify. And as we see the first few years of that maintenance contract bear the burden of many of the lower line items, and then that is reduced in fiscal 24-25 because all of the interior and exterior rehabs have been
Okay.
completed.
All right, thank you.
So those are actually part of 15 then?
yeah,
is
they're
correct.
included in
Yeah,
15.
they're
It's
total.
worded a
So
little bit.
it's not 16,
Yeah.
it's 15.
Yeah.
It's 15.
Okay, well, so I caught
can
an
correct
error.
that.
Hey.
18 is our level control valves and PRV station maintenance. But it was bumped up a little bit just due to inflationary costs. Anything on well number 19?
No.
Okay. 20 booster rehabs, $80,000 a year. That's bumped up a little bit from the past. Line 21.
Why is Skita blue?
Is that a placeholder?
I didn't hear what you said.
Why is Skita blue?
There's a blue placeholder.
That was
Oh.
a
For the mountain well.
typographical error. That should be moved over to the 23-24.
Glad I asked the question.
Okay.
Okay,
Line 22, the PRVs. Line 23, leak maintenance program. We have service line replacement at 150 a year and water pipeline lowering at 136,000.
or earth raising,
Yeah, we're
in the alternate.
we're lowering the pipe by raising the dirt.
Well, that's my point. Thank you.
No,
Okay, let's see. Did we do our,
solar.
okay, solar,
That's
that's our contract for the solar, 35,000. SCADA Tesco maintenance contract, 15,000. Lab analysis, the UCMRs are hitting this year, and that's why we have the $25,000. Sean can get into the weeds with the details if you'd like on the UCMRs,
Mandatory
No.
testing.
mandatory.
It's all good.
And site maintenance, we have $10,000. Okay, page 66, governmental funds, capital improvement projects. We have under number 1, Field and Park expansion, $3 million. And
No coughing at all, so.
yeah, and also the solid waste and recycling, $35,000.
Just a placeholder.
Okay, number 6, that's a very easy one, 0. Take care of the vehicles you have. Then we have the 10-year repair and maintenance plan of programs. Are there any questions on number 7 for the community center maintenance and repair
And
program?
those are blue because,
Placeholders.
again, they're just,
In case the
Just in
HVAC goes
case.
out, you gotta have
Yeah, yeah, no, I
8,000.
know.
If it doesn't, then it gets pushed on.
Yeah, and we've had pretty good luck. Have you had to replace any of the HVAC over the? No. Yeah, so but we're getting
Coming
there.
due.
We are getting there.
It's just a
because
matter of,
Yeah.
It's
when.
just a matter of
You
when.
mention it, you jinx it.
yeah, no, it's already done.
It's too late now.
It's
You
over.
screwed it up.
It's over. It's going out right now.
Yeah.
Good turn
Um,
on next time it's done.
Page 67, section 10, under parks. Any questions on that item? Okay, moving on. Governmental funds, 10-year repair and maintenance plan and programs. Number 11, are there any questions on line number 11? The community cleanups. Line number 12, the tire cleanups, 4 per year.
Tire cleanups.
Yep. Line number 13, workshops. Number 14, commercial trash and recycling program.
We may need more.
Maybe.
That's commercial there,
Yeah,
so.
that's commercials.
I know, but still.
Line number 15, household hazardous waste program. Line number 16, marketing. Line number 17, school outreach program.
One second, Don.
Okay,
Number 16 is where there may be a needed increase in budget. based on-
Perhaps, Mr.
It
Roberts.
jumped
You know,
up quite a bit this year.
yeah, it did jump. If you look, we went from 4,000 to 10,000,
Yeah.
knowing that it's going to be, and we're going to do the best outreach. We're working with CR&R and trying to figure out the best possible solution for the district. A lot
I
of
think-
discussions
I
happening.
think this evening, we're just gonna have to grin and bear it for the next 12 months.
Well, we're going to do our best to keep it reasonable
course.
for the
Of
for the
course.
customers to the best of our ability while meeting the state mandates.
Of course.
And number 18, service organization donations.
Well, that's dramatically lower.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no more questions with those, back to you.
All right, so we will be moving on to D, review of 2022, 2023 draft budget. back to Mr. Bartz.
Thank you, and I'm gonna
Ms.
lateral this
Lawrence.
one straight
Yep.
over to Ms. Lorenz.
Bounce it around the room.
Okay, staff has reviewed the budget with the finance committee, and the only recommendation was increase the fuel increase up to 50%. We had it at 40%. They thought 50% was a better choice, which is probably true based on what's happening right now. So I'll start by going over these various, I'll hit the big spots, and if you have any questions on some of the other items, let me know. The water consumption includes a 6% increase as was approved by the board. And then there's also a little bit of an increase there, a couple $100,000 because of the Tier 3 change that we implemented, for a total of 10.6% increase over prior year. The water meter charge is 6% over as approved by the board. The water sales is a total of 8.8%. An additional $629,000. Special assessments, which is standby, we're anticipating a small decrease there as we install meters. The vacant land that we charge a standby for becomes less. Parks and Recreation, we're expecting things to start to increase as things are starting to get back to normal a little bit. And other services income, this is where the credit card fees are included. So that's the 304%, because last year we didn't have any for a majority of our credit card purchases. So the total gross profit is 9.6% over prior year. And the next section is water purchases. We're getting into expenses now. You'll note that this is one thing we always like to look at every year, and the additional water rights that the district purchased is saving us approximately $1.1 million this year. There was a ramp down, which really bumped that up because, you know, as our available free production allowance reduces, our available water rights becomes even more valuable. Overall, and then there's the replacement water for well 14 of $100,000. And then the admin and bio for MWA that we had to pay every year. Any questions on that? I should have asked, were there any questions on the operating revenues?
Doesn't look like it.
All right, salaries and benefits include the COLA and merit increase as policy, and the total overall is 6.3% increase. And then we have board compensations, and we're assuming that the board will be, well, that everybody is going to be getting back to normal in-person meetings and sessions and such that we used to attend that went viral for a period and are now getting back to in-person meetings. So it looks like a big percentage, but the amount is $36,000. It's relatively small overall. The professional fees is going to be about the same overall. The advertising shows a large increase, and that has to do with the park and solid waste projects and activities that we talked about in the CIP, the 10-year plan.
Item 71, correct?
Yes, that's advertising for those items. And then we have auto expense, which shows a 50% increase because that's basically fuel. The credit card fees and bank charges, there's an increase because of the increased number of users. There may be some people who choose not to use credit cards in the future because the fee went up, so we're not anticipating a big jump there as far as the credit card fees are concerned. We see, these are from the merchant, the bank merchant that processed the credit cards, and we've seen an increase in their fees as well, so that's what we're assuming is the 3% this year. The dues and subscription, staff will be participating again in High Desert Mountain Water Association, so that's going up. And then education, of course, assumes that in-person education and training will resume. And DOT will be resuming their activities, which will increase the employment expense. The equipment rental is expected to go down because they anticipate using less rental equipment days this next year. Insurance is going up 20%, which is a big hit. And then the other big hit is to our 50% increase to our fuel costs, our general fuel costs. And then,
Ms. Morantz,
yes.
excuse me. I know we have a preference for SDRMA, but have we ever looked at alternatives? Because it seems to make it's going up and up and up.
Yes, we do. We have looked at all alternatives. Kim's really good about pricing the various markets for our insurances.
Yeah, and we just had a meeting with SDRMA about, we went line item by line item through every single little thing that we have to make sure it's valued appropriately and whether or not it's necessary to insure it, and also our deductible amount. So we're expecting that this could go down by the time we actually adopt the budget. They're going to get us a new estimate pretty shortly here.
Thank you.
Okay, travel expense, again, because the in-person meetings are expected to resume, that is going up. Parks activities are expected to resume, so some of those costs are going to be going up for operating supplies. The repair and maintenance includes the well repair and the items that were identified in the 10-year plan, and that's where that shows up. Shows a 6% increase over last year. Small tools shows a large increase, but it's actually just not that very much money, and it is for the shop welder that they're planning to purchase.
Well, that's right, the welder.
The
Yeah,
welder.
it's your turn, Mark. Your
The
turn,
welder.
Mr. Roberts. That's an inside joke from the finance committee, sorry, guys.
We figured we'd get rid of the welder if we needed to balance
We
the
were
budget.
hitting on that one, were we?
We were just kidding though. Because it's a small amount, of course. Vehicle maintenance has gone down a little bit. We purchased 2 new vehicles in last year, so that helps to bring down the cost of maintaining the vehicles.
So will the 2 new vehicles that will be purchased, will that
That'll
help
further-
lower that cost too
Yes.
in next year?
Yes. The programs we talked about in the CIP also, those are going up this year. And as normal activities resume and new solid waste programs are implemented. The senior lunch program, we have that in there. I'm not positive that's going to end up happening, but we wanted to put it in there in case we can make it happen
Have
again.
we had any feedback from the seniors, Steve?
Yes, and it's minimal feedback.
Minimal
want a-
meaning
we don't
negative
want
or
a free lunch?
positive?
Minimal interest.
And, they seem not to be coming out of the woodwork yet as much as they used to, but we'll see what happens over this.
Let's see here. And then the public relation is the solid waste and park partnerships that outreach that we have. And the total for service and supplies is a 15% increase 15.7%. So the biggest parts were the fuel and the insurance in that section as far as the biggest impacts to the budget this year because of the increases.
20% increase on
Yeah.
the insurance.
And then we have, and they're, fairly large ticket items as far as that the price goes. Under utilities, we're getting a lovely hit from Edison of 12% this year. And the solar credits are estimated in there. And so bottom line is a 5.6% increase over prior year.
So $1.2
And,
million for utilities, wow.
yeah, that's one of our biggest costs.
Well, you pump water uphill a lot, that's what happens.
And depreciation's up a little bit. Well, as we put projects into our, as they become they close out and become assets, we start depreciating them, so that impacts depreciation. Let's see here. So overall, the increase in insurance and Edison, the repair and maintenance and COLA are the biggest hits for this year's budget. Moving into non-operational. Property tax revenue is going up based on we receive a report from the county that provides us with the amount of money we'll be receiving next year for property tax revenue, and this is how it rolls out into the current property taxes, then prior property tax revenues.
That's reliable, right?
Yes, it is very reliable. David and I were just reviewing that. It's surprisingly reliable. But, well, not really surprising, because they know what they're going to be billing people, so that's how it comes out.
As long as assessed valuations continue rising, we're good.
Well, actually, this year's revenue is based on last year's.
Yeah, it's already baked.
No, I know
already-
that, but what I'm
yeah.
saying is as long
Yeah.
as,
Yeah, and next year, hopefully, it'll go up, it'll continue. But it's probably going to level off a little bit, I would imagine, in the next couple of years. Get back down to the 2% range, which is where it was before. Penalties and other fees. We're estimating a slight increase there because it's based on the water fees, and so those are going up approximately 6%, so we're assuming that the penalty and other fees will go as well. Solid waste, on line 138, it says, assumes 3.3%, but it should be 8.6 like it shows up on top. Solid waste goes up in their contract based on COLA, and COLA is 8.6%, so that will be going up next year. And our meter installation and connection fees, we're assuming a slight decrease. We kind of feel like building might level off a little bit considering the cost of building and the interest rates, et cetera, et cetera. The other income section, we're assuming that interest rates are going to go up a little bit. We're not assuming a big jump there, but it'll help a little bit. And one of our leases for the property next door ends in August, so that's going to go down a little bit. Overall, 0.9% increase over last year for the other income items. And let's see here. Interest expense is going to go down a little bit. We refinanced the two loans, so that helps in that area. And property tax collection fees. And overall, we're expecting little change there. So that brings us down to, after you add back in the 40% depreciation that the board chooses to fund, or, yeah, 60%, yeah, they choose to fund. And then the principal payments, that leaves us with a net income for enterprise of $829,638 and $1,021,062.56 for governmental funds, for a total of $1,850,701.43. But then you have to take off the, we have a repayment, we have three loans, from our, from reserves. One was for water rights that we paid over 10 years, we're paying over 10 years, and the other was to pay for the Antelope Valley adjudication water that we had to pay. And so the total of that is $558,200 per year that we're paying back, and it's divided between property, plant, and equipment, and disaster reserves. And so that brings it down to $271,000. And then we have the capital budget of $278,000. So our total net income for water enterprise is $1,138. And for government funds, the total net income is $821,000. And much of that money will be used as we commit to funding the future park expansion projects and such. Any questions?
No, based on our conversation at the Finance Committee, I just wanted to extend my personal thanks to Ms. Lawrence and David, Mr. Nolan, for all of the work you've done making this work. And so your efforts are very much appreciated.
Any other questions?
I'll just back up what he said.
All right.
I agree with him.
And then the next section is, the next page is the capital expenditure budget, which ties in with the CIP, and that ties in with that line that we just discussed on line 173. And so here we show the projects that the board has approved for moving forward with the CIP budget. We'll have to change the Chromium 6.1 to be reduced by that $450,000. So I'll adjust that.
$2,355,000 on that one.
Yes. That's what I came up with.
Good.
So, and then the funding sources are identified on the right, and then down below it gives you a description of what those are. So for the Chromium 6, that's funded by the Chromium 6 surcharge that we collect. The Future Civic Center for the $5 million is funded by loans and/or grants that we're working on obtaining. The pipeline is out of connection fees. The meter replacement is out of reserves and/or a loan, however we determine that. Right now, we're moving forward with it being out of reserves, and then we'll readdress it if it makes sense to get a loan.
You put that in context with other potential loans that the district is looking at?
Actually, it's on its own line item down here under D. We had it separate.
Yes, but there are other
Yeah,
loans
yes.
that the district is looking at.
Yes, and so you're right, Mark, we'll have to consider whether that's a prudent thing for us to do, considering the other loans we'll be looking at.
Thank you.
And then the Future Civic Center, number 5, is for the Parks and Recreations portion of $3 million that was identified in the CIP. The solid waste projects were identified in the CIP also, and those are existing funds and/or grants or loan, depending on, we have some existing, it's kind of a combination of things for that. And the solid waste one is existing funds available through operations. And the capital purchases were identified in the CIP as well. And those are funded through reserves and depreciation funds. And existing funds. So that are the numbers. And where they're coming from, where they're going to. And the next step is, if the board approves the numbers, we will take them back and put them into the budget document where we have all the tables that bring forth these numbers and put together the big budget document that we'll be bringing back for the hearing on June 1st, right? Yeah.
All right, thank you
So-
very much.
Do we need a consensus on that, Don?
Yeah, I think it would be good if we have a consensus. It sounds like everybody's pretty much on board, but I want to make sure that we tie up any loose ends. If anybody has any objections to what we've talked about or any changes, now would be the time before Lori starts putting it into the final document. But I think just a nod of the head would be okay unless there's objections.
We just had a couple of little changes in there, and
Yes.
that's it.
Okay, we're good.
It's fine.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Yes, what the changes are made. And if something comes up, in the next week or so, you could give me a call and we can talk about it before we get too deep into the document. So but we'll be jumping in pretty quickly, right, David?
Looking forward to that insurance decrease, Ms. Ward.
That would be nice.
No pressure.
No pressure
Yeah.
at all.
Right. All right, so moving on to 6A, prior meeting action items
There were none.
and current action items.
We're going to be updating that CIP table.
All right. So then with no further business before the board, we are adjourned at 5:41 PM.